Welcome, you have reached review time with Imperial, and today's review would be The Woman King. Let's get into it. So right off the bat, subscribe to the channel, like the video. It's not asking for too much. Let's go over the cast. So you have a cast of Viola Davis plays as Nanisca, which is the main character. Thuso Mbedu plays as Nanwi, which is the co-star. Sheila Atim plays as Minza. That's like the right-hand woman to Viola Davis's character. Lashana Lynch plays as Zogi. John Boyega plays as King Gezu. Hero Phoenix Tiffin plays as Santo Fiera. And Jimmy Adukua plays as Oba Ade. And that's the main characters in this film. So, if you've been on this channel long enough, or if you look at any of my reviews, I don't care for slave movies. Like right off the back, I could care less for them. Slave movies is a constant reminder of the oppression that does not need to be glamorized in film. That stuff should be done. So I was skeptical about watching this film. But this movie is not really too much about that. It kind of reminded me of back in the day in the 80s with a movie Shaka Zulu. Those of you from the 80s that remember that movie, it kind of reminded me. It had that kind of feel to it, watching Shaka Zulu back in the day. I don't care for that movie either, but that's what it resonated with me. And so this wasn't that. It had a little slave part in it, but they didn't harp on it, and it was redemption at the end. So this movie's about like an all-female warrior unit that was protected the West African kingdom of Dahomey during the 17th and 19th centuries. So the setting of the movie is in the 1980s, where Viola Davis's character trains the next generation of warriors. So it starts right off the back with Viola Davis's character there in a fight scene, and it pretty much shows their skill set and how they just ran through some men that was there, and they had captured some people, and the men was lying, and they found out they was lying. Of course, they killed them. So it goes to the women of the tribe that's in this like warrior group of warriors, soldiers or whatever. The people of the town respects them. They don't live like the other women in the town. The other women in the town are like wives, do the girly stuff. They're the soldiers of the tribe, and people respect them as such. So it got the feel of, if you watch Black Panther Part 1, how his whole crew is of women. His soldiers as women, so it has that feel to it as well. So in their group of warriors, they don't bow down to each other. It's like women empowerment, pretty much. So you have the character, which is the co-star, Nanwi. So her dad is getting ready to like wed her, not sell her off, but in those times they pretty much predict who your husband was going to be. So of course her dad at the time, that's how the union, same thing if you watch Game of Thrones, that's how their unions get stronger. They marry their daughters off to another tribe so that y'all union could become stronger and stuff like that. So same scenario with this, and she wasn't with it. So when she arrived, it's this old man and pretty much looking at her like ready to service him and as being his wife, and she wasn't with that. So when she backtalked, he smacked her. She got fury and raged and responded back and pushed him. So he pretty much at that time like, oh no, I ain't gonna have no wife disobeying me like that. So he the dad took her to the king's village and pretty much said he wanted to give his daughter to them. So they brought her in, and she was pretty much a firecracker right off the bat. And they had to earn their way. It wasn't just give it to them. So they had to earn their way, and they had to go through a bunch of different things. And so you go through this whole spiel of trial and tribulations of the girls being taught, going through different measures to see their skill set to teach them how to fight if they're gonna make it. Viola Davis's character, Nanisca, pretty much tells the girls like right off the bat, nobody's gonna hold your hand. If you want to leave right now, you can leave. So there was a few women that just left because they knew that wasn't them, but the ones who stayed pretty much stayed and fight. So what you then had was Izagi, played by Lashana Lynch. She was pretty much like the tough, quote unquote, aunt of the bunch, you know. So you got, if Viola was like the mother figure, she had her right hand. Amanza was like her right hand, and then you had Izagi, who was like the cool aunt, pretty much in a sense that related more with the younger people. So she was pushing Nanwi the whole time and basically telling her, you know, things to help her out along the way, because they seen the talent in Nanwi. And so even when it came down to, so to give you an understanding, when you had Wonder Woman, when they had the Amazon women going through that big tournament where Wonder Woman had to do that big tournament where she had to show she was the best in front of everybody, they had something similar to that and see who would win. And then there was a moment where Nanwi, one of her girls, her friends, couldn't get through the sticker bushes, so she was ahead, and she came back and pulled her through, which almost cost her the race. But her determination she was still able to cover ground. The girl that was ahead of her pretty much was struggling on climbing the fence, and to cover ground, she just jumped over the fence, jumped down while the girl was trying to climb down. And so she ended up winning and becoming the head of her group. Now, she was always defiant, but not defiant in the fact of just being, she was defiant in the right way, just trying to teach them a different way. So they was teaching them about gunpowder and teaching them how to shoot guns and stuff like that. However, she played a trick on Izagi and the older women in warrior group. Basically, when they went to go stab the mannequin type thing for the fighting, it popped, like as in a bomb. And so Nanisca asked who was responsible. She stood up, basically saying she was responsible for doing that. And they pretty much scolded her. But they took note what she said, because she said you don't have to set a bomb without having a gun, pretty much. So it let them realize how they can have bombs without actually having a gun. So they end up using that trick when they wanted to fight group at the end. Now, Amenza has like they into spiritual stuff, so Nanisca is having like nightmares, and so she having flashbacks. So she was raped when she was young, and she was raped by Abba Adi and his crew, and he runs a big crew that's dealing with oil, and they're part of the slave trade. And so they show up to the king Gazo's tribe, pretty much telling them, like, taxing them in a sense, like, either y'all want war or take this money or whatever, or pay us. And so Anaswa seen him, and when she seen him, she had the vision. That's who raped her. So it gets deeper. So the twist gets deeper when she got raped. You find out when she got raped, she was pregnant. And when she became pregnant, she had Amenza take the baby and get rid of the baby. So when Nawi won the tournament, when she was bathing, and she noticed a scar in the back of Nawi's arm, and she got up and ran off. And Amenza was like, "What's going on?" She said, "What did you do with that baby?" And she pretty much said, "I gave it to a village." Because they found out that Nawi was an orphan. They said, "I thought you had a father." She said, "Yeah, probably. I wasn't the daughter. It turned out he got me from an orphanage." So she instantly started feeling, that's my daughter. And Amenza pretty much said to her, the guys wouldn't do you like that. So we end up having some Europeans sailed over, and this is the whole slave part, the slave trade. They selling off slaves and stuff like that. So they're coming to, what you see is that there were tribes and kings that were in Africa who were selling off their own people because they were making money off it to keep them rich or whatever. So they were making money off the slave trade and all that type stuff. So you see this in this part. So they it was two men, and one of the Europeans, his mom came from Dahomey, and she always wanted to come back to her. Of course, she went over there in America, and she had him, but of course he's mixed, and he's coming back now. So these is his people, bloodline, however, and so you can see it right off the back. But his friend that he grew up with is his partner in a slave trade. So he's not fully with this, of course not, because that's his people that's getting slave traded and everything like that. So you can see his friend is all in it. So he meets Nami, and right off the back they develop a bond for each other, and he's into her. And so when they came to her village and pretty much told the king, like, yeah, if you cut us off, you won't have our protection, you'll be nothing, you won't have the money, you just will be a king with no money, pretty much. And he pretty much said, if you don't have affiliation with us, I can no longer protect you. Because he know the village he had, the warriors he had. These women is gonna fight hard or whatever. So the whole time, this whole movie, it showed his multiple wives, and he had this one defiant wife. And of course they pushed, the agenda is definitely being pushed in this film. You see that noticeably. But one of his wives was defiant throughout the whole film or whatever. And they never really did anything. I thought something was going to happen to her because she was so defiant. And talking lip the whole time. So nevertheless, what's his name? Santo pretty much, that was fine to Namri. Pretty much after she won an event, he told her, meet her at night. And so she slipped out, and he pretty much told her like, yo, they're gonna make a move on y'all, and y'all need to be prepared. I'm gonna be waiting down pretty much at the shore, and you can leave with me. I'll protect you. So she went and told Nanisca the information she had, and Nanisca pretty much told her like, you know, you don't do that. You always being defiant. And so Nanisca told her, listen, I was once raped before. So she told her, well, I'm not like you. I'm not going to be raped. And so she told her the story about her being raped and everything that happened. She said pretty much, we said that we would do something with the baby just so they always know if it was her. So what they did was they put a scar on the baby and put sharp tooth or tiger tooth or something inside of the baby. So she had that scar her whole life. Finally, she took and cut that wound because Nami didn't believe it. She opened that wound and pulled out the tooth. And she never knew that tooth was in there the whole time. So that was the proof that Nami was her daughter. So that was the twist right there. That the head dude of the other group, Abba Abi, was her father, and Nanisca was Nami's mother. So Nami pretty much, she ran off, and she was confused. And they told him to, you know, don't show weakness, don't cry and stuff like that. So they she didn't, and Nanisca pretty much, she cried too, you know. So now the big war came, and she used Nami's trick with the gunpowder and everything, and it's just started the war. They was brawling and everybody was fighting, and you had Azagi get wounded, so she got captured. Nami got thrown down a hill, so she got captured, and Nami's friend got captured as well, but she played like hurt or whatever, and so they never tied her up. So when Nami came to, seeing her and asked her was she tied up, and she said no, and pretty much told her roll off so you could go tell the group what happened. So she rolled off, and so now Nami was captured with Azagi. And I told you Azagi was the cool aunt. So Azagi bone was broke, and her and so she had Nami was telling her, you know, all the stuff she was telling her, be strong. So she snapped her arm back in place, and she was like enduring the pain that was going through everything, and she was sturdy. And basically their plan was, once they get auctioned off for slavery, what they would do is make a run for it, make a commotion and run for it. So Azagi already knew she was going to sacrifice herself from the beginning. Now, what ended up taking place back at the village, Nanisca pretty much was like, we got to go help them. Because once the girl came back and told them, the king pretty much said he wants Nanisca to be his queen, and she needs to relinquish her throne. She pretty much told him, well, listen, I gotta go try to help them. He like, no, it's a sacrifice. We won the war. They're gonna backtrack, which they was gonna do. We can't risk nothing else. So she's like, well, let me go by myself. He was like, no. So and if you defy me, don't take my kindness for weakness. You know, I'll reprimand you pretty much. So at night, she pretty much took it upon herself, I'm going to roll out. And meanwhile, back at the headquarters of where the slave trade was going on, Nawi and Azagi was up on the stage getting auctioned off, and they wasn't chained or anything like that. And Santo's boy was examining them. Santo came and seen that was Nawi, so he started to snap. Like, oh no, get her, like basically get her off of there or whatever. So when he started to, that was the distraction they needed. So Zagi hit the guy, and they started scrambling and punching their way out. Azagi got loose, so she was headed, and they, just like in the earlier scene when they was at that slave trade area, when Nanisca was fighting a Dobby, it was a moment she was going to sacrifice herself to just get killed or whatever, but Nawi helped her out and cut the rope and closed the gate where his men couldn't get in to help him. And so they was able to escape, and they jumped off. This happened earlier. I forgot to mention that scene, but nevertheless, that was their plan, to do this again, to jump off the area and jump in the water. However, Azagi got loose, and when she seen, now their mission was don't come back and help nobody. But remember, she did that for her girlfriend. Azagi told her, don't come back, because your girlfriend gonna get you killed. You got to keep going, you know what I'm saying? So Azagi could have left, but instead she came back. And when she came back, they shot her and killed her. And so at that moment, Santo came, and she was able to, Nawi was able to push everybody back off. She went and grabbed Azagi, and Azagi was telling her, go, run, leave. And she wouldn't. She just stayed there and cried. So they captured her again, but then at this time, Adabi pretty much was like, hey, I'll sell you this one for whatever. And Santo pretty much bought her. So she pretty much came, and when Santo came into her, he pretty much was like, she was like, what you own me now? He was like, no, I just did that to get you free. He gave her the key to get loose, and pretty much told her, like, hey, I'm gonna set you free. I'm not gonna keep you or anything like that. So of course they got intimate, and by this time, when Nanisca was on her way by herself, the whole tribe came and said, we're gonna fight with you. So the warriors of the men and the women came, and they're gonna fight with her. So they ain't gonna let her go out by herself. So by the time she came there, they pretty much was letting the slave that was there on the premise, letting them out, pretty much saying, we're gonna free everybody, and we're gonna burn this place down. So that's pretty much what they did. Now we pretty much seen that her sisters came to help her, so she told him, you need to get gone. And he pretty much said, I'm gonna wait for you at the beach. So they turned up. They was killing everybody. Of course, you had the showdown with Nanisca and Adabi finally getting there one-on-one. And by this time, Nawi jumped in the fray, so she was killing people. So Santo made it to the beach, and his friend that was the slave trader as well, he was like, come on, we need to get going. So they going, you know, of course they got a big ship off in the sea, and they take little boats out to the shore. So they trying to get the boats, so they got slaves to row them back. So what Santo did was he freed the slaves so they could get free. And when he did that, they beat they beat his boy down and drowned him. So he stayed there on the beach and pretty much waiting for Nawi to see if she was gonna come. So by this time, Adabi and Nanisca was fighting, and he wounded her a little bit, but she ended up besting him and stabbed him and killed him. I thought he was going to jump back up, because she should have sliced his throat, but she didn't. I thought he was going to jump back up and kill her at the end, but by this time she was kind of wounded. So it was two men, and Namwi came, and she pretty much dusted them off by herself. So that was it. And it pretty much from there, now we see Santo at the beach, and she looked at him and gave him a head nod. And he knew he would be welcome back, but she's going to stay. That was, pretty much what I got from that. And then you had them go back to the tribe. The king, of course, they was basically saying, she upstaged you. You gotta reprimand her. So she pretty much renounced her for being a general of the warriors. She renounced her position, and he pretty much in return said, we set slaves free, and we let the Europeans know we're not for that. We're going to stand on our own and become independent on ourselves. And from there, he made her the woman king. And people went into, happiness over that. Now, you're already hearing the things about, the genders, and it's a lot of woman empowering movies going on. And I guess, it's not a big deal to me, but I only think the negative that I see is that they're making the man look, instead of empowering women and making the man be just as strong, like, why not be strong together? That's the part that I guess somebody, if I had to critique, they make the men just so weak in these films where the woman is just so empowered more. I guess some people could say, well, women have been wasn't empowered in so many movies. Why not have movies where the men are looking more weak or whatever? You know what I'm saying? So, like, if I look at Thor: Love and Thunder, and that was women empowering, and you had the lady Thor, and I guess we all still knew that Thor was the main character, but so you still had like the balance there. Like, Thor was still who Thor is. He's still but you had Lady Thor that was kicking butt too. But in this film, you had just all women empowered, all women strength. There was some men soldiers, whatever. But the king just sat around. He wasn't a warrior. He just, and then he wasn't getting no respect. He wasn't getting no respect. He was the king, but he wasn't getting no respect. His main general, she showed respect, and then in the end, she defied him. One of his main wives, she was talking back to him. She was defying him. So he could be looked at as a weak king that will eventually get ran over on. So that's the part that I don't think, like, why make him weak like that? So that's my critique to it. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Out of my 4-star rating system, I give this movie a 3 out of 4 stars. 3 out of 4 stars. It wasn't a slave movie, even though it was more about, it had action in it. It had a good storyline. It's definitely a decent watch or whatever. Till next time.